We are live. Hi, welcome to the Live Well, Be Well, Do Good show. I am Morgan Sheets, your host, and today I am thrilled to bring my guest to you, Rosh Warren, who's a certified hypnotherapist and transformational coach. And I recently had the pleasure of having a taste of her work, and it was quantum shifting in my life. So before having her experienced her work, I already wanted to interview her because I got the opportunity to connect and talk to her through a market research call, and she's amazing. And in the entrepreneur space, we have a lot of talk about mindset, and we have a lot of talk about self-care and productivity. And there's not a lot of talk about actually healing our physiology and our brain and our nervous system. So that's what Rosh helps her clients do. And I can't wait to share more about hypnotherapy and how Rosh, her story, which I'll be hearing mostly for the first time as well, as how she started her work. So thank you for being here with me, Rosh. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to not only work with you, but get to see your work as well. Super cool.
You're so welcome. So I'll just kind of set some context for everybody that's joining us. I said a little bit, we met in an entrepreneur group, and I had a 2-hour hypnotherapy session with Rosh. And I'd kind of like to maybe have you talk about your work in terms of first, like what you led me through. It's a virtual session, so you get to do it in the privacy of your own home, which is super convenient. We're coming out of pandemic, and also you don't have to visit Rosh in person.
Yeah.
She can come to you wherever she is, and it's super convenient. So she just has you like lay down in your zero gravity position. Super relaxed. And before the session, she has an extensive intake questionnaire, which I've shared, which we'll kind of, when we talk about, I'll share what I shared with her. You go through that when you work with Rosh, and then the 2-hour session. So before we go into the session itself, tell everyone a little bit about what hypnotherapy is and how you got into it.
Yeah, so hypnotherapy, it's not like stage hypnosis where I can make you like cluck like a chicken or something, unless you want to, like whatever. But it's basically just intently focusing on something. So if you've ever been like driving and all of a sudden you're at your destination and you're like, oh my God, how did I end up here? That was hypnosis.
Okay. And that's a scary feeling though when you're driving.
Sometimes, yeah. So basically with hypnosis, you can have the bad forms. You can be programmed in a bad way. Think about your bullies. That is a bad form of hypnosis. But then there's good hypnosis where we can reprogram your mind to think positively and put good things in there. Yeah, so there's two sides of the coin there. And
thanks for making that differentiation. I didn't really even think about it.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I heard a while ago from a teacher that your first hypnotherapists are actually your parents, which I was like, whoa, it's so true. Because you think like if the stove is hot and they tell you like, don't touch that, or it like makes you stop, and then it makes an imprint on your mind and you remember like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, basically the one thing to remember with hypnotherapy is that you are always in the driver's seat. So if you don't want to participate, if you don't want to quit smoking, if you don't want to work on your issues, it's not going to work. So that's like the main thing to remember with it. And
so you have to be willing to make this shift before it'll happen.
Yeah. So I am only the guide. You create all the transformation. It all comes from up here. It's super powerful.
It really is super powerful. And you know, I know you say you do deep healing, and that's what I want to talk about with people, really try to convey actually like how deep the healing work is that you do.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me and anyone listening, how does hypnotherapy heal that deeper level that, you know, frankly, in my experience, which while we're talking about this, I want people to know I've done EMDR. I've done extensive work with mindfulness. I created a mindfulness massage therapy technique and spent hours in a mindful state massaging people for 4 to 6 hours at a time.
Amazing.
I've worked with tons of coaches. I've read decades of work, and I got volumes of mindset work. Like I've tried all of the conscious things and all of the physiological things that I currently am aware of to shift. And yes, it makes a shift, but what I discovered was the conscious work only does so much, and that there's, as you know, this deeper, what I call, and you probably know the proper terminology, but it feels like that physiological stress. Remember we were talking about when I came to you, it's like, it's your body and it's your nervous system. And I had gotten to a point where I could hack my nervous system to a certain point, and I was saying I was reprogramming my nervous system. Like I would listen to specific frequency music and binaural beats and like try all the things. So how does that hypnotherapy take us to that deeper level that kind of all of these other things can't access or don't?
Yeah. So basically I like to think of the subconscious and the conscious as an iceberg. So the tip of the iceberg, the part that you can see, is your conscious mind. It's 12% of what you're capable of.
So little, all that mindset work for 12%.
Yeah. So that's also where your willpower lives. So if you say like, I'm not going to eat that cake today, it's like willpower. Like how strong is that really? I'm going to eat the cake at the end of the day. You know?
Yeah, willpower alone is a tremendous amount of effort, and it never will yield long-term results ever.
And it's stressful.
So stressful.
Yeah. And so the subconscious mind, it lives below that. So it's that 80% that you don't see, lives below the surface. And so when we can tap into that subconscious mind,
it's so powerful.
Yeah, we can tap into that subconscious mind. We can create real shifts that don't take willpower. They don't take extreme effort. I had a testimonial the other day where the person contacted me. They were like, oh my God, it created shifts. And I can't even remember what I was obsessing about. Like, that's how much it's changed my mind. And I was like, oh my God, it's still crazy for me to hear the testimonials, even though I came to hypnotherapy because of my issues. It's still like, oh my God, this stuff is so powerful because I don't do it. Like I said, I'm the guide. So when I hear what your subconscious mind is capable of, I'm like, oh yeah, like go you.
That what you just talked about was exactly my experience. Like it was like I woke up, like what's my crayon drawing real quick, like this is hypnotherapy, that's mindset. Like awesome. This is why we're here having this conversation, because people like me and other women and people like you used to be, we are all out here suffering and trying so hard to create these shifts, but when you can only access that and not that, there's only so much we can do. And that's like that experience like you're talking about, like your other client, it's incredible. Like after my session with Rosh, I was sleepy, I kind of went to bed, we planned it at the end of the day so I could chill out. And I woke up the next morning and I remember like carrying my laundry downstairs, and I was standing in the front of the washer, super boring stuff. And I was like, I have peace. Like I'm not working to like manage the volleys. So if you don't have a trauma response, people that haven't ever experienced it, for me, sometimes what it feels like is, and I'd love to hear how you experienced it in your body so we can share with people too. But it's like a vice kind of in my head of all of these thoughts and feelings that don't have any tangible thread. So mindset conscious work requires that you identify something. Yeah. And some of us that have done lots and loads of work, like you get through that 12% and you're kind of just like, then I was at the level of existence where I was like, I have all of this emotional and mental pain and I just don't know, like there's nothing I can attribute it to, right? Like
feels defeating. It feels like, all right, I guess this is all I can do. You know?
Yeah, like if there's no cause, or for me, the cause living with PMDD is like a severe reaction to my own hormone. If I can't change the cause, I'm just always stuck trying to manage the effect. And that morning when I was doing my laundry, I was sitting there and I was like, for the first time, and I don't know how long, because I don't know, but at least 6 months, because it'd been very, very severe stress response, I had peace.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it was amazing. And like her voice kind of sticks in your head, which is beautiful. So I'm like sitting there and I don't even like, you don't remember. I tried so hard to hold on during sessions. I still do. I listened again last night. I was telling Rosh before we started, and I try so hard and I lose conscious and I just don't. But then I woke up and she's got the most beautiful melodic voice too to listen to. It was like so sweet, and she's just like, I don't know what the little bit whispers were, but instead of like all of this stressful, intangible, negative, painful, I had her sweet little voice kind of like whispering in space, and it was just bliss. So yeah. How did, you mentioned you had panic attacks and you came to being a hypnotherapist from trying to heal yourself. How did that feel in your body when you were experiencing them, and then your shift after?
So for me, it was so bad where I couldn't leave my house. I remember at the worst point, I went to Target just to get whatever you get at Target, everything.
More than you ever need at Target.
So I went to Target and I was in the parking lot and I started crying because I couldn't go in. I had so much panic in my body that I couldn't even move. And so I had a period of about 2 years where I was having panic attacks multiple times a day, every single day of my life. And God. That created not only the panic attacks, but when I was out of them, a sense of general anxiety. And so it was like buzzing through my body. And, the normal symptoms of anxiety, that you can't speak, you feel like the world is ending, just like impending doom type feelings. And then I had depression because of that. And so it got so bad where I was like hiding knives because I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I see those. It got really, really bad to a point where I didn't think that any professional could help me, because every therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist that I went to was just like, you're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life. Here's something that you can take. Here's meditation that you can do. Mind you, they never told me how to do meditation. They just told me, do meditation, it'll help. Just sit quietly with all these like crazy thoughts, it'll help.
If sitting quietly on the floor healed panic attacks, we'd all be fine.
So I was at a loss, and I was just like Googling, and one day I found hypnotherapy. And so this stresses the importance of finding a hypnotherapist that really jives with you, who has the same vibe as you, because the first one that I found was not good at all. And so I went through 5 sessions with him, had no progress. You should really see progress after the first session. So that should have been my inclination. But again, I never had experience with it, so I didn't know. But then a couple months later, I met my hypnotherapist, my mentor, my teacher currently. And so after one session with her, I never had another panic attack again. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so powerful. So I kept going back to her, kept healing that anxiety, that depression, basically any issue I had a problem with. And this is where mindfulness comes in, because as I was telling you before this, I got to a point where any issue I wanted to use with hypnotherapy, and I was going to it for moments of crisis. So if I felt like my anxiety had come back, I would be like, oh my God, I need hypnotherapy right now. Like, that's the only thing that can help me. But not too long ago, I realized that I needed to implement a good mental hygiene. I needed to have the mindfulness. I needed to have those other tools to really assist with the hypnotherapy when I'm outside of those big reset sessions. I need to have the mental workout, just like I work out my body, you know,
Right.
like I go to the gym and the gym sucks sometimes. And I'm just like, oh, this is awful. Same thing. Like I need to do the awful mental workouts, like the meditations that sometimes suck because they lead up to a cumulative benefit of having that baseline without needing those constant crisis reset moments. So that's something I teach as well, is to have those in addition to the big hypnotherapy resets.
Yeah, that's definitely important, for sure. I think it's interesting. We've kind of had a similar path to hypnotherapy, which is kind of interesting. Like, you're probably the first, you know, it's, if someone hasn't experienced something like you did, where that's pretty intense, where you have multiple panic attacks a day for 2 years and you can't leave your house. I don't know if many people, you know, if just for people that haven't identified, for us people that can't leave the house, it's a frustrating, demoralizing.
And it seems so easy. People are like, you know, just go outside.
Yeah, because you can't see what's going on, and they think that, like, for me, I know with Menorrhagia, just what I experienced, I came to Rosh and I was looking at hypnotherapy for the same reasons that she was. We just serendipitously connected, but I was already exploring, trying to find a hypnotherapist before I saw her post. Didn't know anything that a hypnotherapy session was coming. It just happened, but I was exploring because these maintenance things, which I do now, which post-session work, were not working. And when you live with something, I think what's especially valuable with the hypnotherapy, you know, touching on the crisis point and then this maintenance again, and living with these really chronic long-term conditions, is there's that trauma of it coming back, like you're talking about. Like, what people don't understand is, I mean, I'm not great at acceptance. There's self-acceptance. Someone asked this recently and I didn't answer. I'm gonna answer it here. We have self-acceptance, but what people like you or me that are living with an illness that we can't face is acceptance of the things that are seen beyond our control. And we really want to live our dreams and have a quality of life. Your ambition doesn't die, your goals don't die, your dreams don't die. And when you go through years upon years of a recurring thing, that brings this unconscious trauma that your hypnotherapy does so good. And so when did we have my session again? What date do you remember?
It's about 2 months ago now, I believe.
Sometime at the end of May, I think.
Yeah, actually, it was the end of May, yeah.
So since that, like Ross is talking about, I have a lot of mental hygiene. I've been doing all of that. And so I was sharing with her before the call, I kind of hit a crisis point yesterday because I had another bad month with hemorrhaging. And what that looks like for people that don't know is I can't be upright longer than 10 to 15 minutes for a few days at a time. And I have to lay in bed and I have to take medication. I have to go to the bathroom every half an hour. I really can't be away from the bathroom longer than 30 to 45 minutes. So living with that for 2.5 years is me completely altering every aspect of my life, from my business and my personal life, to allow for 3 to 5 days of that per month. But then not only do I have to live with that, where I have to lay around and I don't want to, and I don't like to, and I feel trapped. But then there's the recovery, because when you have that much of a loss, so I go through being allergic to my own progesterone for a week, and then I go through hemorrhaging for a week, and then I've got, as soon as I feel better, I'm like this go-go gadget. I'm like, yay, I'm a human. Like, you probably felt like that too. I'm like, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and you're like,
want to do everything because you weren't able to before.
Yeah, and I'm like over the moon excited, and then my body can't handle it.
Yeah.
And then I will send myself into that crisis point just by trying to live what my fiance and therapist say is overly functioning life. But I think it's just living a good life, living my dream.
Yeah.
And so yesterday I took her hypnotherapy recording, which was amazing because I could not shift it. Like, I'd hit that point and nothing would shift, and everything was amazing up until yesterday. And I'm really glad before the call that I experienced that, because what was so interesting was how severe the physiological symptoms are. Like, I am literally trapped in my own body when I'm in this severe state. Like, it's, everything is viced and it's like this, and I'm clenched. So I pulled out her hypnotherapy thing last night. I listened to it twice, and I had my space again this morning. And all I did was play it next to my, I put it next to my head before I went to bed, tried to listen to what she says. I still can't remember. I was sitting there the whole time. I was like, oh my God, that's so good. I'm gonna remember that. I didn't hear that before. I still have no idea. Yeah, but I think that's what's so amazing about it is that you can, if you've done all the active things and you're willing to do all the active things, when you're really in that crisis point, you give people a tool to use that we don't have to be active. Because when we're in that moment, you're really past the point of actually being able to function well.
Yeah.
Your brain and your nervous system can't. So having your tool to passively just be able to heal, which is, maybe you could describe to people, a hypnotherapy is not like listening to a meditation. No. I could have listened to a meditation last night and I would not have woken up this way. So let's share with people what the difference is between the hypnotherapy and the meditation, and why this creates that deep reset.
Yeah. So for hypnotherapy, there is a cadence of my voice, right? There's a way that I say certain things. There's a way that I slow down my voice at a certain part. So there is an art of how I actually say what I say. There's also an art of not saying certain things. So there's certain things that you can't phrase a certain way because the subconscious mind won't take it on. So it's knowing that. And then also subconscious mind loves metaphors. So it's working in the metaphor a lot because it really grasps onto that. Also, the difference between a meditation and hypnosis is that you do have the suggestions in there. So it's taking on what the subconscious mind is taking on what it needs to relate to your conscious mind when it's awake. And also just the deepness of, I would say meditation also puts you into a trance, but it puts you into a lighter state of trance. So hypnosis puts you into a deep state of trance where you can fall asleep into that, or you can hover between sleepfulness and awake in that theta brainwave state. And so that's something that I think is the biggest difference. Like in my mindfulness teacher training, they say you want to have your students maintain a certain level of consciousness, right? Because you don't want to get down to that deep state, because then you're not identifying, like you said before. When you're in that conscious meditative state, you want to identify where the feelings are coming from, where you're feeling it in your body. When you're in hypnosis, it's like, no, let all that go. Your subconscious mind is doing that for you. So your conscious mind can take a rest. It can take a break. It's been doing too much already. So I would say those are the main differences. And then also something that I do, I don't know if you've continued to do it, but getting into that restorative yoga position. So I incorporate yoga into my hypnotherapy by utilizing a position called instant Maui, which basically it's also called zero gravity position. So it takes off all of the tension in your body so you can just like float there. And so that brings you into a deeper state as well. And getting into that position automatically lowers your heart rate. There's a book called The Relaxation Response by Herbert Benson. And he talks about lowering the heart rate and how important that is to heal certain chronic conditions or to make those symptoms of the chronic conditions better. So it's important.
And that zero gravity, to kind of walk people through, like she had me, you put kind of like a bolster or pillow underneath your knees. And you have me lay palms up, right? So you kind of open up your body and
so palms up, palms down.
Palms up, palms down.
Whatever feels most comfortable. And if you don't have, so it's hard to explain it on video when I can't get in the position. But if you want to recreate it without seeing it, then all you have to do is put your legs against the wall at a 90-degree angle. It'll create the same thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So kind of put your legs up and then recreate that on the floor with cushions.
Yeah. Make sure that your spine is straight and that your legs are above your heart.
Yeah, that is relaxing. I did continue to do that for a few nights, sometimes occasionally. I have the session here in my office. So post session, I have these nice Thai massage mats left over from when I did massage. That's what I put down. I have my blankets. So I kept them in my office. They're up against the wall. And so now when I take my breaks, I feel like it's kind of a mental thing. I'll just go lay there and kind of try to call that feeling in.
Yeah, it's so relaxing. Like, I just love laying in it. I try to lay in it like once a day at least.
Yeah, it is very relaxing. And that's that, we talk about mental maintenance, and since mindset work is so much on the conscious level in our field, I want to really talk about, this is like nervous system hygiene that we're really doing. Mm-hmm. Taking those few moments, you're giving yourself a chance to calm down. Yeah. I mean, I have to do it all the time.
And the conscious or the subconscious mind, it stores every single memory you've had since you were born, and it stores that in the body. So when you think a thought that's disturbing, what happens? You feel it in the body. And so this is really allowing that to move out, to say the subconscious mind also lives in the now. And so it doesn't know that those things are in the past. So it's also allowing the subconscious mind to get up to speed, to know those things are in the past. You can let go of them. It's okay, Yeah.
And you heal. So part of what came through that I heard last night when you were talking, I realized that you talk in the hypnosis you did for me anyway, because it was something you want to work on, about healing that brain connection or something. You said something.
Connection?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what I really feel like that hypnosis did for me. Like what you're experiencing with the panic attacks, when you have something recurring like that, I think with my experience, so for people that don't know what PMDD is, it's premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it means that I have a genetic and cellular abnormality where I have severe to mild, depending on the month or the overall situation that my body is in, severe to mild reactions to the natural fluctuations of progesterone in my body. And so when you add any other kind of stressor or anything else, I also happen to have complex PTSD. And then 2.5 years ago, I started hemorrhaging with menorrhagia. I've been living with that for 2.5 years. So what happens is that from an experience level, Rosh, what you're talking about, it is stored in my body. Like when you have a monthly cyclical thing, it's happening every single month. So you add years and years. Since PMDD is genetic, I've lived with this since my hormones started fluctuating. I just didn't know. And that's when Rosh and I talked, that was a huge thing that we wanted to work on. And I really didn't know. I was laying on the floor. My mind is such a skeptic. Like, I'm 38. My therapist says she's never met a single patient that has done as much work or tried as many things or works so freaking hard. So I was skeptical, but I'm also like gung ho. I'm like, if it works, I'll try it. And if it works, I am on board. Like, I'll try anything. And I'm also a big skeptic.
That's the point I was at. Like when I went to the second hypnotherapist, I was like, all right, I'll try it.
Yeah, it's like, please. And that's what I was telling you. I felt at war inside of my body, because when you have a trauma response to your own body, that's basically what was happening every single month. I had a brain divide. So what happens to the brain on PMDD is it affects the frontal lobe. The negative reaction to hormones affects my frontal lobe. So it affects things like motor skills, memory, emotional processes. So like what Rosh is talking about, how our brain has to live, or when our brain lives in the now. See if I can try to put the pieces together in a way that people can understand. You may know more, but the frontal lobe, I'm affected. Okay, let me see if I can put this in good words. So during that hormonal time, for the emotional processing, I lose the ability when my brain is on PMDD to discern between the present and the past. So in my body, every single event that I've ever experienced, if I have an emotion that triggers an emotion that happened at a similar thing, I experience it in my body and I lose the ability to discern where it came from. And then I also just have emotions and thoughts that correlate to nothing.
Yeah.
Which is super frustrating. Like Rosh was talking about, like I have been on the floor Googling suicide hotlines for months on end during PMDD because I can't control the level of mental and emotional and physical pain that I'm experiencing. And I don't want to do it. I just want to, and nobody can fix it. So I never call because like nobody can fix it. If somebody could fix something, like if I could fix it, I'd fix it. It's just like.
But now
I didn't want to be alone, but now, so I would like to stop feeling at war inside my body because that's what it was like.
That the whole thing is just like feeling at war, not feeling safe in your body, not wanting to feel present in your body. It's like,
well, and I was
out of here.
Yeah, I was like fighting that thing every month, right? Like my subconscious, literally, that's what I was telling Rosh when we started. It felt like my defense mechanism. I was literally attacking myself at times, blacking out from my condition because the intensity had built so much inside my body. These symptoms, like that war was so real between the subconscious, conscious nervous system, like because my body is attacking my body.
Yeah, and some people, when they go into hypnosis, they find it hard to relax at first because then those emotions come up. It's like, oh God, this is like strange. I haven't relaxed like this before. Is this okay? Like what's happening? And that's why I keep reminding you throughout the session, like, it's okay to relax. You're safe now. It's okay.
Because and your voice does that. You create such a beautiful space of safety.
Thank you.
Yeah, it does it. So that was our intention. We talked about that. I wanted to feel more relaxed, at ease, free, and spontaneous. All the external things, and I really told her, I was like, I want my brain to just surrender and remember and accept that I have PMDD, because the brain divide meant that even though consciously I knew that I was going to have these symptoms every single month, because I was having a trauma response, I suppressed it. So it sounds absolutely insane. Like I have spreadsheets telling me the 5 worst days of every single month for the rest of the year. I've got everything consciously mapped out. It takes so much work to function and do everything I do as a human being. And also all of that would go out the window and PMDD would start. Like, oh my God, like what is this?
This is never going to end.
It's never going to end. I would forget.
Yeah.
And that hypnotherapy, it did heal. That's what I said. I want to heal the core, the unconscious internal stressors, and just minimize that. Give me space, stop the war, and help me remember that I live with this condition. That's what we were like.
And it's manageable though,
Yeah.
There are points where you can have positive reactions in your life. You can have that. You just have to have equanimity, and hypnosis makes it easier to have equanimity with that.
Yeah.
Whereas mindfulness, it's like, all right, have equanimity, go.
Yeah. Mindfulness, please observe how much pain you are in right now.
Yeah.
And find your bliss and state of acceptance. And I'm over here like, I'm going to accept and surrender this like I do cleaning the cat litter box.
Yeah.
I'm not going to like it. I'm going to hate every minute, but I'll do it because it's good for me.
Yeah, no, we're about healing through that and getting to a place where, hey, I don't have any pain today. Cool. Like that feels amazing.
And you didn't have to work so hard for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the really incredible thing about the hypnotherapy. And that's why I told her what it did for me beyond the things we've talked about is it increase the awareness of me. If you live with trauma or if you live with a chronic illness, there's you and there's your illness.
Yeah.
And the longer you've been in it, as you probably had, like, go back to my terrible drawings, like when I started my session with Rosh, this is how my life was. My terrible drawings. So this is how Morgan's world was. PNBD had this gigantic circle, and me as an individual was like over here in this tiny little space. And since it shifted.
Good.
Do I still have all the
and
things to
knowing that
manage?
it's separate,
Sure.
Right? Like
Yeah.
you are not that. That is not you. Separate.
Separate.
Yeah.
It increased the capacity. So there's, I don't know, have you ever heard of a book on trauma called The Window of Tolerance or Widen Your Window?
No.
Widen Your Window. Widen the Window. It's a great book. If anyone is looking to learn more about trauma, I highly recommend it. I've read the old classic from the Dutch guy Bessel van der Kolk.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
This one approaches it from a different angle. So what some people don't understand about trauma is there's some of us process it through high functioning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what you don't see is that some of our high functioning people are actually just living out a trauma response, because that's how we can best cope with it. Yeah. And in that book, what I was trying to work on before meeting Rosh is your nervous system. If you've been exposed to trauma or any kind of stressor, you only have your window of tolerance is a certain size. Yeah. And despite trying all these things, I could not widen my window of tolerance. It just stayed this like little bucket. And
you can't fit everything into that.
You can't fit it in there. And when you're ambitious and you're also like trying to achieve your way to like manage, because that's what you love, like you go like this every day.
Yeah.
That was me every single day. And hypnotherapy gave me
capacity. Yeah.
But I know there needs more. So let's kind of tell people, like, I had one session. I'm not trying to say, oh, my life is forever better. It's going to be, that's not true. It's a regular maintenance thing. And how many, I know you said kind of, you did 4 to 5 with one and then you did more with another. And for those of us with more severe things, because that's really kind of who I want to speak to with this, how many sessions do you recommend doing as a base and then as kind of a regular maintenance ongoing?
Yeah, so I would say 4 to 6 sessions to really tackle the issue. And then after that, maybe like once a year follow up. But other than that, I would say to develop a good mental health hygiene. And so I will walk them through how to do that. And so they won't necessarily need the hypnotherapy after that. It'll be coming back if they need to have a space to practice mental health hygiene.
Yeah, kind of like some tools, little touch up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just tools like little touch up. I'm thinking like your mechanical terms. You're gonna go in for a little oil change, not a full
I was
engine replacement.
Here, like a little reset, because we have so much stress, right? Like every single day we're inundated with so much stress. Even like going on our phones and like scrolling through social media, like looking at the news. It's like that is getting imprinted on your mind, and so it's new things. It's not like you do this hypnotherapy and then it's like, all right, there's no more stress in the world. It's like you have new things that come up. And so those new things also need to be let go of. And so, I would say once you tackle that bigger issue, then once a year or once or twice a year should be fine.
Okay. And I know you put together this amazing free gift. It's called From Burnout to Bliss, right?
Yeah.
The guided experience. Is that something they could start using as their mental hygiene practice?
Yeah, so it's a 14-day experience. So this is basically, this will jumpstart you into basically resetting your body, creating safety and calm and relaxation within the body. Some of us are so stressed out, so overworked, so burnt out that we don't have the capacity, the space to do anything else, to have hope that we can do anything else. So this program will help you achieve that. It'll relax you enough to get into a state of mind that you're like, oh, I can do this. This is how I can do this.
And I want to be clear for people, like, I really want to distinguish here that when we're talking about I can do this, we're talking about giving you the capacity and the resources, the internal resources in your body and your brain to be able to do it. Like, because we talked about this is beyond willpower. So if you're struggling with capacity and being able to physically show up because your brain, your body, or something like that.
If you're so stressed out, you can't show up the way that you want to, you know, you're going to have headaches at the end of the day. You're going to be depressed about it. And so this really helps with those symptoms, and it helps you to not have those so that you can move positively into the life that you want. Because if you have those, it's like, you're just going to be stuck in a cycle. It's going to be a cycle of like, I wake up into this like nightmare. That's what it felt like to me when I was like waking up into a nightmare. And so I really hope that with the From Burnout to Bliss, people can get that just like sigh of relief. Like, all right, there is something out there that can help me with this.
Yeah, this is especially probably, don't get me wrong, from my experience with burnout, like the only advice I really got people like to tell you is like, oh, why don't you rest? You know, go rest. I was like, yeah, that's why I'm so freaking angry. I've been laying around resting for the past 3 days.
And it doesn't do anything.
And I still can't get up and do anything.
Rest. You're just like stewing in those emotions. And sometimes it's hard to rest. You can't fall asleep.
Yeah, it's like if I could flip that switch, I would. I'm like pushing around for the button and you can't, and they're like, clear your plate and your schedule, and I'm like,
kill switch.
I've cleared out my whole life to try to reset my nervous system. It's still malfunctioning. So that's the kind of resources Rosh is delivering. We're not talking about like stressors, or we're talking about stress response, like physiological stress. We're giving you more capacity, widening that window.
And all the stress that you have from trauma built up within your life, this will also help with that. It's not just like, oh, I had a hard day at work. It's much bigger than that.
Yeah, much bigger. And I know we're running out of time. I'm so grateful that you've given us what you had. Before we close, the last thing I want to ask, now that we've kind of talked about our healing journeys and you're much farther along in using yours, resilient story, to help the world, I'd love for you to touch briefly on whatever you feel called to about, you know, how owning our story and sharing our resilient stories in our work as women entrepreneurs can benefit our work and our clients.
Yeah. So I know for me personally, it's owning that part of our story that we might not be as proud of, because we've gone through the trauma. We've gone through those times that it was hard for us, you know. I've gone through times in my life where I was just like, I don't want people to know that. But by doing this work and by healing and by becoming who you want to be, then you can tell your story, because you know that it'll help people that were in the same position as you. And so for me, it's really important to help entrepreneurs see that, because I know that I really latched on to people that had these really impactful stories of coming from points in their life where they were paralyzed. They felt like they could not be a business owner, and then seeing them do it, and I was like, oh, I can do it too. And so, that's something really important to me. And so I do coach entrepreneurs through that, people that are having a hard time incorporating the bad parts of your story into your full story, because that's so impactful and it can help so many people.
Yeah, and you also we're going to go back to capacity again. Like, that's what I love. You're such a unique, I think, service provider or woman in this entrepreneur space, and that's what I love it, is that not only do you have the resources in the background, which we didn't get time to touch on, she has a big writing background. So
certifications and everything.
She's married a few worlds here. But she's got a lot of writing experience, and combining that with that, not only ability to help you share your story in a way that you feel really good about and doesn't feel like dumping or anything, none of the ick, but you give them the capacity and resources. Because what I run into with a lot of women entrepreneurs is, again, it's not lack of willingness. They want to, it's just some of them can't navigate through what sharing the story, how it impacts them personally. So when you can give them the resources and the capacity
to discover that,
to just even show up, because they want to show up, but their own physiology is kind of getting in their way, and you give them both, which is so rare and so amazing. So I'm just so grateful.
It's definitely needed, and I hope that it gives as much healing as I'm hoping it does.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, I am so, so grateful for your time today and for sharing your gift with me. For anyone that wants to connect with you, is Instagram the best place then for them to reach out?
Yeah, so my Instagram is I am Rosh Warren, and I'll also put the link to my 14-day experience in the link in my Instagram.
Cool. And if anybody wants to reach out with any questions, are you comfortable with them reaching out to you on Instagram after?
Yeah, just send it in a DM.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool. And same here, if you guys have any questions, feel free. I would love to share. And especially if you're interested, you know, I mean, I'm not going to share all the dirty details live on the internet, but if you really want to work with Rosh and you want to know more about my own experience, please reach out and ask. I would be happy to share with you if it makes a difference. It's saying yes to move forward and get women farther on their healing journey. So don't hesitate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's so nice seeing you. Whenever I see you, I'm just like, oh, it's like I'm home. It's like a friend.
I know. We're sister aliens.
Yes.
Different Harry Potter houses though, but
Oh
we're still sister friends.
So
okay. Well, thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Rosh.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.